mental toughness.
Listen, stop feeling sorry for yourself. Come on, man. What's wrong with you?
The mental toughness mindset.
I had to go to grow.
Sam Shade.
Martin Luther King.
You got challenges that you're going to run across.
Guest is a person that I've been knowing for years, man. He's a superstar in my mind. You know, met him his sophomore year in college, I think. No, junior year in college, I think. And we're going to talk about his career tonight. His college career. We're going to talk about his NFL career. We're going to talk about his coaching career. I call him the real Slim Shady. He's the official Sam Shady. He got one of those names that, you know, like a detective Sam Shady. He got one of those names that everybody would love to have, you know. So we're going to talk about his career at the Bengals and the Redskins and, you know, the coaching that he did in high school. Now he's in college with the HBCU. We're going to talk about that. So without further ado, I want to bring up Mr. Sam Shade from our green room. Are you there, sir?
I'm here, Tony. I appreciate you having me on, man. Mental Toughness Mindset Podcast. I like it. I like the title.
That's it. And matter of fact, we're going to get your address at the end afterwards, and I'm going to send you one of my hoodies so you can, wear it. Mental Toughness.
I'll rock it in one of my team meetings.
I know that's right. So, man, let's jump right into this. I got a lot of stuff I want to talk about. Like I said, we're going to talk about your college career. Let's talk a little bit about high school. Let's talk about Birmingham, man, because, you know, I'm from Birmingham. You from Birmingham, and you went to this high school that kind of like nobody really knew about, like Winona. You know what I'm saying? I don't think a lot of us knew about Winona back in the day. I think Sam Shade made Winona pop. No, I'm going to take that back. I'm going to tell you something. Way before you heard about the High brothers, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
absolutely. Johnny High.
Johnny High, Willie High, Freddie High, and Mr. High. I used to be at the games, and their dad would show up at the Fair Park Arena. He would turn it out. You know what I'm saying? So,
oh yeah.
So those guys, a couple of those guys played in the NBA. Though. I know Johnny played,
right,
and I think Freddie might have played. Oh, Willie. I think it was Willie. And so how did you wind up going to Winona instead of Jones Valley?
Well, I did go to Jones Valley on the west side of Birmingham. Jones Valley was probably about a little over a mile down the street from Winona. So after my 10th grade year, Jones Valley closed down.
Oh. And
basically I ended up being zoned to Winona. And so that's how I ended up going to Winona. But, you know, it's kind of funny. You look back on it, you know, there were 3 high schools on one street. And like I said, Winona and Jones Valley were a little over a mile from each other. And people ask, why was that? You know, obviously that was because of, you know, when the schools, at one point schools were segregated. So
right.
Jones Valley actually had been in, you know, all white school, and Winona's always been had always been an all black school. So.
And then you go further down,
things changed.
You go further down was my high school, which was West End.
West End, you're right down the street.
Yeah, it's amazing. They closed both of those schools, and Winona got a new school.
Yes, and you know, back then, you know, people didn't like it, but you know, I think consolidation's been good for the schools. You know, because now you're not spending so much money to keep the lights on in 3 different buildings, and you can put everybody in one building. Yeah, I think it's good for academic competition and athletic competition.
Right. You're right, 100%. Let's talk about Alabama, though. So you went, now, I read, I remember you telling me this back in the day, but I read something the other day where you were talking about how Pat Sullivan recruited you hard from Auburn. And so at one point, were you seriously thinking about going to Auburn?
I actually, believe it or not, well, first off, I can't talk about, you can't bring up Pat Sullivan without me talking about him.
Okay.
Heisman Trophy winner at Auburn as a quarterback. I think it was 1971. But, man, you're talking about an awesome guy. He actually recruited me. And actually, because of him, I actually committed to Auburn about a week before I visited Alabama. So I actually committed to Auburn. And Pat Sullivan had a whole lot to do with that. If anybody that's ever known him, just a special guy, classy guy, man, and happened to be a hell of a football player and a hell of a coach.
So how did you commit without going to Alabama, and how did you go to Auburn? I mean, so Alabama was not recruiting you?
No, Alabama was recruiting me. I actually had a visit set up the next week. Kind of had a situation with one of the coaches at Alabama. We kind of had a misunderstanding about something, and it was a small situation about them coming to do a home visit at my house, and we just weren't able to work that out. So, in all that going on, I just said, well, hey, I just won't visit Alabama. I visited Auburn and I committed, but my mother, who Tony, my mother, man, she actually was a big Alabama fan. She still is a big Alabama fan.
Right.
She got me to take the visit to Alabama after I committed to Auburn. And when I went down to Alabama, I knew that socially, I just felt more comfortable at Alabama during that time. 1991, I just felt a little bit more comfortable socially there at the University of Alabama than I did at Auburn. And, that's kind of, my story on it.
What player took you around campus? I know they always have one guy that takes you around.
Well, it was kind of a number of guys, but I actually had a guy, he actually, it's kind of a funny story because when I committed to Auburn, it was kind of a, big story. So some of the guys at Alabama didn't want to show me around because I had committed to Auburn. So there's a guy by the name of Darren Greenwood. He was a backup defensive back from Lynette, Alabama. He took me around, so never forget that. But I did spend time with all the other players too. It was kind of just, I think some of them kind of in a funny way were like, man, I'm not showing him around. He just committed to Auburn. And then the funny part about it, Alabama was playing Auburn in basketball that weekend in Tuscaloosa that I visited Alabama. So I ended up seeing a bunch of the guys that I'd hung out with at Auburn the week before at the game. And so, it was just kind of a funny deal, because I'm talking to those guys and, I'm hanging out with the Bama guys.
I know that was strange. So now, I heard you play running back, right?
I did. And Tony, now you mentioned something. Now you talked about, Winona. There were some guys, way before me at Winona that were really good players. There was a guy by the name of Johnny McDaniel, and I tell you what, he went on to play. And it's funny because he got drafted by the Bengals, so he played for the Bengals.
Okay.
And then after a few years there, he went to the Redskins. So the same path that I ended up taking, years later, he had already taken. But Johnny McDaniels, that was.
Well, I was just joking because during my day, our high school was very popular. We won a lot. I'm like 10 years older than you, so
right
during that time we won a lot, and Winona and football didn't win a lot at all. And then Winona was a tough school, so we didn't even go over that way. You know what I'm saying? Because they shoot.
You didn't cross the tracks, did you? You didn't cross those railroad tracks.
Yeah, we didn't want to go where Winona. So, I can't even think but one guy from my high school that went to the league, and that's Travis McNeil, tight end. You remember Travis?
I know Travis very well, man. A great guy. Matter of fact, I played little league ball or park ball for the same youth league that he played for, the same team. And it's funny, I actually ended up having the same coaches he had. So they talked about him, and he'd come by, talk to us. Shoot, man, Travis doing really well.
Where is he now? Is he in Birmingham or he's in Atlanta?
He's in Birmingham. I know he's kind of he's got his own business. He's doing some things, business wise, doing pretty good. But yeah, Travis, I always looked up to Travis.
Yeah, his two sisters one of his sisters was with me in my senior year, and then his other sister was right behind me. And I think he came a couple of years later. But yeah, I was just messing with you about Winona because at that time,
because you're gonna make me start talking about guys like Papa Jackson, man, a big time baseball guy that played at Winona. Actually ended up being I want to say he was the pitching coach for the Boston Red Sox for a long time.
Okay, see,
was a part of a World Series, winning the World Series.
Okay, because see, my only, when I think of Winona for sports was the High brothers back in the day. Johnny. Right. Now they had another High brother that played at Jones Valley, right?
They did. I can't think of his name.
He's the younger brother. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, so they had a big family, man, of basketball players.
Well, I'll tell you, something interesting about Winona that was kind of interesting, and you brought it up. Basketball was big at Winona. I mean, it was big. A lot of state championships in basketball, and But the funny thing is, we had since Johnny McDaniels, I've got to count at 10 NFL guys.
Really?
Oh yeah.
From Winona.
From Winona. Right now, you've got Quentin Williams that plays for the Jets. Him and his brother. His brother plays linebacker for the Jets.
Okay, the two went to Bama, right?
Quincy didn't go to Alabama, but Quentin did.
Family members, right? One went to Mississippi State. Did one go to Mississippi State or something like that?
Quincy actually went to Murray State. He went to Murray State.
Okay.
And Quentin went to Alabama, but so you got those two, and you kind of keep going back. And Joe Webb that played at UAB. There's some other guys that played at Alabama and some other places. But it's just kind of funny, we won those state championships in basketball with no football state championships. And my high school coach got close. They went to the state championship game, and but they weren't able to pull it out.
Yeah, my senior year we went to the. I think it was the game before the championship, and Parker beat the brakes off us. That year, the first game of the year, we beat them like by 3 or 4 touchdowns. And then when we played them in the playoff, they beat us like 31 or something. And then they went and lost to Mount Brook. We was all there cheering for them. And they lost to Mount Brook. Mount Brook, it was Mount Brook. Yeah, it was Mount Brook.
That's funny. Mount Brook just played for the state championship this year in 6A. They didn't win it, but they played for it. So it's funny you said that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's interesting.
So now, when you went to Bama, man, I still remember the Sugar Bowl where everybody had Miami winning, and I'm gonna tell you, I didn't think y'all was gonna beat Miami, man. I really did. I really did. What were y'all thinking in the locker room? Because wait a minute. You had an interception in that game. How many? It was like he threw 5 picks that game, right?
I think it was at least 3.
Yeah, we got Shade right here with the pick. So, and that's the one where T walked down your boy, the wide receiver, right? Took the ball from him.
Yeah, the one he walked down, Lamar Thomas.
Yeah.
That was one of the. It's funny. That was one of the top plays in Alabama history, and it didn't count. One of our defensive ends jumped off sides, and so actually the play didn't count. So,
man, I don't even remember. I thought that was actually he walked and took the ball from him and started coming back up the field. They called it back.
They called it back because it was a free play for their offense. It was a free play. Once we jumped off sides, they just let the play keep going, and so if Miami had scored, it would have been a touchdown. But the ball ended up going back, and they got 5 yards off of the play. But you asked about what I was thinking about. What we were thinking about before the game. We had a First off, we had a really good coaching staff, starting with Coach Stallings, who had, been in the NFL, coached for the Dallas Cowboys as an assistant, and was head coach of the Cardinals. He was I tell you what, Coach Stallings, he held everybody accountable. He was a big-time disciplinarian, and, you were going to be ready to play one way or another, playing for Coach Stallings. And if you couldn't get ready, you probably weren't going to be on the team. That was the thing about him. And, I appreciate all the things that I went through at Alabama. I appreciate the way they pushed myself and my teammates, because it definitely, you talk about mental toughness, we had some mental toughness. and so we knew going into the ball game, after watching a lot of film, they were really good at throwing the ball in the passing game, but they weren't very good in the running game. And we felt like we could dictate to them how the game was going to go. And we basically did that by early on, we stopped the run. So they basically abandoned the running game, and then they had to throw the ball. And then we had two guys up front, two defensive ends that were 1 to 6 pick in the draft. And those guys, they were playing pass all night after we started stopping the run. And, in the secondary, we did feel like we did a really good job of, kind of holding those guys from making the big plays they normally make.
How many players went to the league from that team? I know it's Copeland, Curry, you, T. Was Lemansky on that team?
Oh, yeah, Lemansky Hall, coaches defensive ends for Clemson now. You had Antonio Langham was a first rounder, won the Thorpe, was a Thorpe winner the next year, and some other linebackers. You had Derek Oden, Antonio London.
Oh, wow.
Man, there were quite a few. And then there were some guys that weren't starting that were kind of rotating in that later on got drafted, guys like Shannon Brown. The list kind of goes on and on.
Y'all had a killer defense, man. I think that's what they felt like Miami offense was so much powerful, and that Bama offense wasn't that powerful. But, those 5 picks, that had to turn the game around right there just in itself. The defense kind of controlled that.
Right. But people talk about our defense also, but I felt like our offense was built to.
Yeah, Lassick too. Like Lassick went to the league.
Right,
yeah.
Right. Had Derek Lassick was a 2nd round draft pick at running back. You had David Palmer, 2nd round draft pick at receiver, was a Heisman finalist. Went to New York for the Heisman ceremony, all that stuff. So
Palmer went to Parker, right?
Jackson Olin. Went to Jackson Olin.
Wow.
He sure did. Right across town from you, from West Virginia.
We used to call Jackson Olin Winona of the North, because y'all Jokers didn't want to go over to Jackson Olin either, because before it was called Western. They do a lot of shooting over there at Jackson Olin too. So, but they had a good basketball squad too. That's why I never looked at them. It's funny. My senior year, my high school coach, Coach Akon, he's a legend in Birmingham, man. And
Heard of him.
Akon was coaching at Jackson Olin for like 10 years, man. We were beating the brakes off them every year. And the year that he came to West End, Jackson Olin beat us. And Coach Akon was in the locker room crying, man. He said, "Man, y'all let them winos beat y'all, man. We number winos over there." He said, "I come over here and we lose to them winos." Akon was a fool, boy. He was crazy, man. But yeah, I didn't know Palmer went to Jackson Olin. Okay.
Yeah, he sounded like a character, man.
He was a character, man. Akon used to be on the sideline, man. I'm not lying to you, man. Doing the national anthem, he would be down on the far end and Coach Williams on the front on the other end, and Akon would be standing next to the players. And I'll never forget this guy named Frank Chambers, man. He took his helmet off, so he was holding for the national anthem, and Akon was whispering, "Boy, your head nappy as hell, boy. If I had a comb, I'd comb your hair right." I mean, you had the players trying to bite their tongue to keep from laughing, because he busted on Frank Chambers' head. Oh, man, yeah, he was a character, man. He was.
Yeah, that sounds like a time when you could kind of tell guys what you really thought, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Nowadays, you get a little trouble for that.
Get in trouble for that, yeah. But Akon,
yeah.
he didn't play with that one. So now, your senior year, I still remember this. Really, your junior year, going into the senior year. I remember when me and Mason pulled the report, and what's the guy name that does all the draft stuff? He's on ESPN now, and they always mess with him about he don't know anything about sports, and he's the.
I got his face.
He got all the hair. He got all the hair in his head. Yeah. So that was before the internet. It was nothing. So, but he used to come out with a report every year. He used to come out with a magazine, come out with a report. So that summer, he came out. The number one safety in the country going into the senior year, Sam Shade. Number one safety in the country. So me and Mason looking at that, we talking to your mom. We like, okay, that's cool, man. Sam's cool. Now, I remember you talked to someone, I don't know who, but you talked to someone. And at that time, that summer before you went back, you got a Lloyd's of London insurance policy because you was a top player. At that time, Lloyd's of London was only giving policies to number one players. Lloyd's of London, and you got it. All right, so now this is all my opinion here. So okay. This is not your opinion. This is my opinion. So, you don't have to say anything about this, but I remember talking to your mom about this. So season starts. Senior year, Sam goes to practice and the season starts. And I think the first or the second game, next thing I know, somebody has benched you. So I'm sitting here like, how did Sam get benched? I'm like, he's the number one safety in the country. Good guy. Don't start any mess. Don't do anything. But they benched you like second game, third game, fourth game. It was crazy what was going on. Now, again, my opinion only. And I remember telling your mother this. I said, Sam got back and Sam had that Lloyd's of London insurance policy. And I know for a fact, and I'm not calling any coaches' names out, but I know some coaches have connections with insurance companies. And so they want to tell the player where to go to get their insurance policy instead of them finding it on their own. Lloyd's of London contacted you. You got it on your own. I believe one of those coaches didn't like that. How could they bench you, man? I mean, they say that you had a bad attitude. Do you remember this? I know you remember it. Do you remember?
No, I'll say this. I don't recall anybody saying I had a bad attitude. I never heard that. That never got.
Well, what was it then?
Well, I'll say this. This is what happened for me. So during that summer, had some things go on at home with my family. There were some things going on with some of my family members. I've shared it with some people, but there were a couple people in my family had some personal issues going on, and it really, for me, was out of my control to do anything. So, back then I was young. I'm 21 years old, and you're worried about what's going on at home with family members, and that was more on my mind than football. So right before I went to camp, all this stuff was going on, and football just really wasn't on my mind. And a lot of people don't know that. Some people do because I've shared the story. And so, I go in and I didn't have an attitude or anything. I just, wasn't as locked in, wasn't as focused. Maybe wasn't, practicing the way I normally practice because of it. And so the coaching staff felt like, I wasn't locked in. So that was part of me not playing. And interesting story. So I got to a point where I really just wasn't thinking about ball because of my stuff that was going on at home. I wasn't really thinking about it. Even though I'm going through this, I'm not playing. And, I think back then I was the type of guy, I was just going to kind of just get through things.
Right.
And some of my teammates came to me.
I believe that you are a very quiet individual, but you say you're more private than quiet.
Well, I won't say quiet. I mean, just during that time, I've never been one to complain, blame, or all that type of stuff. I've always been one to work through my own problems and issues. Even growing up when I was younger. So anyway, some of my teammates came to me because I'd been voted a captain and all that stuff. And so some of my guys were like, look, man, we need you to go and talk to the coaches or something because we need you out there with us. Mm-hmm. Okay, so after that happened, I went in, I saw the head coach, Coach Stallings. We talked, and Coach Stallings basically said, well, listen, he said, man, you need to go talk to the defense coordinator, who also was my position coach.
Right.
You need to go talk with him, because he spends more time with you. He knows a lot more than what I do. And so I said, okay, that's fair. So I went in and I talked to Coach Bill Oliver, who was my defense coordinator, position coach. And he just told me, he said, hey, man, it just doesn't seem like your head's been in it. It doesn't seem like you've been as focused. You don't look the same in practice. And I said, well, what do I need to do to go? What do I need to do to play? He said, man, I just need to see it in practice. So I go out that week, had a great practice. And back then we got after it in practice. We really got after it. So, a couple of my teammates kind of laugh about it to this day. They're like, man, you didn't have to hit so-and-so like that in practice that day. That type of deal. I was like, well, look, they told me I wasn't practicing good. So had a good practice. We go play LSU that weekend early in the game. I was fortunate enough to make a play, an interception, run it back for a touchdown early. And I was back on track after that. But I learned a lot during that time. For instance, the issue that was going on with my family, I was able to talk to somebody about that before the LSU game. Really, a couple of weeks before that, I talked to somebody, and I just learned that you got to control what you can control, and the other things you just got to give them to God, man. Pray about it, give it to Him, and let Him handle it. And to me, that was really what happened. And I was glad that I had gone through that adversity, because I go to once I go to the NFL, it doesn't matter. You're first round, the first pick in the draft. Right. It don't matter. Like you gotta be mentally tough. You gotta fight each and every day. You gotta prepare yourself each season. And going through the experience that I went through my senior year, I felt like it helped me during my pro career. And if I hadn't gone through it, I probably would have went through that same situation in pro ball, and I probably would have got cut. So I just feel like everything happens for a reason. And, God put me in that situation where, I needed to grow.
And I believe it did happen for a reason. And I know that it helped you, because me talking to Mason and talking to you also, and I'm going to get to that point in a second. But let me go back. My opinion. I heard yours.
Yours and a lot of other people, but keep going.
I know. I'm not changing that opinion, because I remember telling your mother, I said, I ought to call the radio station to just talk about this. She said, no, don't call the radio station. I said, I need to do this because this is messed up, man, because I know who the guy was, and I'm not bringing up any names or anything like that. But, you probably, to come on campus with a Lords of London insurance policy, and I know these guys, and I know they got friends, they got buddies who they want to connect you with. They should. I understand that. But so I'm gonna stick with that one until I die. But I know that I agree with your personal issues that you had. I know, but I think it may have been a little combination of all that. Let me tell you something.
Well, I'll say this. I'll say this to you. Mm-hmm. There was a situation where actually it's funny, because I had a coach did approach me during the spring. One of the coaches on staff did approach me about getting an insurance policy. Mm-hmm. Because I wasn't thinking about it at that time.
Right.
And we basically said, okay, I said, okay, fine, but between spring practice ending and training camp ending, the coach and I never talked about it. Like he never got back to me on it. And then that's when, you know, yourself and
Mason was talking
Mason,
to you.
we talked about, hey, we need to get this insurance policy.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, I'm waiting, you know, on my coach. And when we couldn't get in touch with him, we
Lord Zalanda showed up.
So I get what you're saying. And
Yeah.
I think it was I guess it was kind of the perfect storm in a way. I won't say the perfect storm because, you know, it was tough going through it. But
and I'm gonna tell you some more stuff I talked to your mom about, because I used to talk to her a lot during that time about this, because another thing I said to her was that it was frustrating because, I mean, you didn't even go to the Senior Bowl, man. You wound up going to the Combine.
Right.
You should have been at the Senior Bowl and the Combine, but you didn't go. And I remember telling her, I said, everybody that's at that Senior Bowl, and I'm not, you know, hating on anybody. I'm not hating on your friends or players, but some of the guys from Bama that went out that year to that Senior Bowl, and I can name them all. You know them, they're your friends. I remember telling your mom, you can ask her to this day. I said, Sam is going to play longer in the NFL than any of those guys. And that year, I'm not going to name the guys, but I can name all the guys that went to the league. I can name all the guys that went to the Senior Bowl. And you have, because you played, what, 7 or 8 years in the league? How long you played?
Played 8 years until I had a neck injury my last year playing for the Redskins.
Right, you played 8 years. None of them guys played 8 years that came out that year. I know for a fact. I remember when you said, you called me one night and we went over to Brookwood Village to get you some sneakers. And I came back, because you wanted something for the Combine, right? And I came back. I told I said, Mace, this dude, I mean, it was like you got some $89 sneaker. It wasn't, you could have got $200. You could have got, I said, Sam didn't even want. He just wanted a pair of shoes to run in the Combine. I said, he didn't even get the top line. You put them on, you like, these cool. And it's funny, I remember, you ever see that commercial where you put your running shoes on and they got this guy running like he about to run out the store with him? You did that. You know, you took off running, then you stopped and you ran a little bit more, and then you said, these fine right here. Like,
well, you know what? You know what now? It's funny you say that, because I think the style of those shoes, you know, might not have, you know, made them cost a lot, but they actually were pretty good shoes. I knew good shoes too, Tony. I knew what I needed because I ran track in high school, so I kind of knew, hey, this will do it right here.
I said, when I told him that, because you got to understand, we had been dealing with guys, man, that they had, I mean, this crazy stuff they was doing. I'm gonna tell you, it's two guys that during that time, cell phones was just kind of coming out.
That's
and,
right.
You know, most people didn't really have them.
I still had a pager. I had a pager.
This one guy had Mace get him a couple of phones for him and his cousins. And so when they would come to Atlanta and we would ride around, I'd take them, you know, hang out, gym, shoot ball and all that. He would literally call his cousin in the back seat on the cell phone. So imagine now, you're talking about this when the race was high. You know, that was when people wait for the weekend to use your radio.
Yeah, on the phone, late at night.
We driving down P Street, his cousin in the back on the phone talking to him. I'm like, man, just turn around and talk to him. They just ran the tab up, but you was not a guy like that at all. You didn't do any of that kind of stuff.
So I tell you, man, that's crazy, man. Man, calling him in the car.
That's amazing. They calling each other, the one in the front seat, one in the back seat, and they talking. I'm like, y'all can hear each other, but they just running up the tab.
Hey, I do want to go back on it. I want to go back on that Senior Bowl deal. I want to go back on that.
All right.
You know, the funny thing is, we played Ohio State in the bowl game that year. We played them in the Citrus Bowl.
Yeah, I went down there in Florida.
Yeah, which you know that was interesting in itself. Like we were undefeated my senior year, and we played Florida in the SEC championship game, the first one they had in Atlanta, and we ended up losing by 1 point. We lose by 1 point, so we lost a chance for the SEC championship and the national championship in one game. So we go to that bowl game, and nobody really wants to be there, like, because we felt like we should have been playing for the national championship. And so I actually hurt my ankle in that game. Had kind of a little high ankle sprain, and so I actually wouldn't have been healthy at the Senior Bowl if I had gone.
Okay.
So it didn't bother me as much because.
But they didn't know that. But you knew.
No, they didn't know. They didn't know that.
Okay.
They didn't know that. But now it was just kind of funny because I can remember. I think there were about 7 or 8 of my teammates that did go. Matter of fact, my roommate was a safety that ended up going also. He ended up going. But one of my teammates did come to me. We were at our senior banquet. And after the banquet, guys were going down to the Senior Bowl in Mobile. And one of my good buddies that was going, he came to me. He said, man, out of everybody that's going, bro, you should have been the first one going.
Yep.
And but that's enough for me. When your teammates, your brothers.
When they say you know who know you should be there, yeah.
Right. When your brothers recognize things and stuff like that, you don't.
Yeah.
That didn't really bother me.
Right.
And like I said, everything just happens for a reason.
Let me tell you another thing that bothered me though, because I still can remember this. So you went from first round to fourth round.
Right.
I can name all the safeties that came before you because that draft was only 4 safeties. It was Chris Hudson from
Colorado,
University of Colorado. A guy named Melvin Johnson from Kentucky, which I had never heard of. He
went second round. He went in front of everybody. Pretty athletic guy, Melvin. He's pretty athletic.
Okay, but I think he played only 3 years or something like that, 2 or 3 years, which is still good to be in the league to play that long.
And Devin Bush went first round.
See, I don't remember first round safety. Was he first round?
Yeah, Devin Bush played at Florida State. He went to the Falcons.
Okay. All right. Well, then I don't know how long Devin played because I don't remember him going first round, but I do remember Orlando Thomas. He went second round to the Vikings.
He went to the Vikings. He's a good player. All those guys were good players. All of them.
Right. Yeah. They played. I know Orlando Thomas played about 5 years. Johnson played 2 or 3 years. I can't remember how long Devin Bush. And
Devin played for about, I'd say at least about 7 or 8.
Okay.
He played for a while. He was a good player also. It's funny though. You mentioned Melvin. With Tampa Bay because Tampa. They actually called me, like one of their top scouts called me about a week before the draft, maybe less than a week before the draft. He calls and he says, hey, if you're still around when we pick in the second round, we're going to take you. So, on draft day, I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, draft's going by. I'm really not, I wasn't tripping about, not being first round and that. Right. But yeah, we get to the second round and Tampa picks Melvin Johnson. I was like, oh man,
that's crazy.
Yeah, because they had kind of got me. I'm sitting there expecting to go.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
and the crazy part is when your family members start leaving. All right, Sam. Well, we know we've been here all day. We know you're gonna get drafted.
Yeah, I mean, I actually waited till the second day. You're right. I had to wait till the second day.
Yeah,
the beginning of the second day. Fourth round, because back then it was first, second, and third the first day. So,
but I still remember telling your mom, you could ask. I said, Sam gonna play longer than all these guys, and you got a good 8-year run. So you went to the Bengals now, and who was it? Coslett? Was that the head coach?
Actually, we had. Oh
Dave, no, you were from Bama, Shula.
Yeah, we had Dave Shula.
Yeah.
That's Mike's brother. That's Mike's older brother.
Okay.
Mike played quarterback at Bama, but David Shula was the head coach when I got there. And after 2 years, they got rid of David, and then it was Bruce Coslett. Yeah.
And then after the third year is when you went to the Redskins.
Well, actually, after my 4th year, so I played in Cincinnati 4 years.
Okay.
And then my contract was up. I was a free agent, and then I was able to go hit free agency and kind of make up for getting drafted.
I remember you telling Mace, man, I'm kind of glad I didn't because I might have blown that money up front. when I first got into the league or something like that. You said I don't know exactly.
Well, you know what's funny about the whole deal too. Now just I look back on it. When the draft came around, I hadn't turned 22 years old. I was still 21 years old, and so I looked at Devin Bush went to the Falcons in the first round.
Right.
So if things had stayed like they were before, before that season when people had me rated for top
been to the Falcons.
Whatever, well, I probably would have went to Atlanta. But
right.
21-year-old Sam Shade wasn't ready to go to Atlanta with first round money.
I know.
I wasn't ready for that. And I thank God. I honestly thank God for that, because the Lord knew what He was doing with me. He knew I wasn't ready for that.
Let's move him back.
Yeah. He didn't want me to go out and buy that convertible Corvette and drive fast like I used to. So
all your homeboys from Bessemer coming over.
Exactly. I get home from practice and all my cousins and buddies out there telling me, man, we've been waiting on you all day.
Let's head to Magic City.
Yeah, man. So the Lord knew what He was doing, man. I tell you, and I had to go. I always say I had to go to Cincinnati, and it's like I had to go to grow.
Right.
And I felt like I grew a lot, in Cincinnati, from a football standpoint. And just from a life standpoint, just really, it was a blessing. Met some great guys. Had some great teammates in Cincinnati. Had some guys, some men of God. Guys like a guy named Leonard Wheeler, Bracy Walker.
Wait a minute, when Copeland there or Curry? Copeland.
John Copeland was there. Who I played with at Alabama. He was there. He had been a first round pick 2 years before I got there. But like I said, I had a great time in Cincinnati, and I'm still friends with a lot of guys that I played with in Cincinnati. Still talk to those guys. Guys like Big Daddy Dan Wilkerson, Tim Johnson. There are a lot of them. Clyde Simmons actually was there for 1 year with us. Jeff Blake, I run into Jeff a few times. He's doing stuff with quarterbacks. He's got a kind of one of those quarterback deals that he does around the country. Yeah, but a lot of good guys in Cincinnati. Now it was cold. The weather was cold. That was one reason I didn't want to go to Cincinnati. I was like, man, it's cold. But
I remember, I don't know, I think it was your rookie season when Mason flew to Birmingham and then y'all drove up to Cincinnati. Was that your rookie season?
Yeah, that was, we did. We drove to training camp.
Yeah, okay.
Drove to training camp. That says a lot about him as an agent,
Exactly, to do that.
He flies to Birmingham to drive to Cincinnati with a 4th round draft pick.
Right.
That's a lot about him.
He really wants to drive nowhere anyway. Mason Ash. Yeah. He didn't want to drive nowhere anyway. He loved to fly. So every time I would drive, he'd be like, man, how far is it going to be, man? We would leave from Atlanta to go to Nashville. He'd crying. I'm like, man, let's fly. I said, man, we just going over the mountain here. It'll be 3.5 hours to Nashville for you. Sure? You sure? I'm saying, he ain't like to drive nowhere, but for him to ride all the way up there.
And at the time, he's working for the biggest sports agency in the world, IMG. At the time, so that said a lot about him, and he's my agent the whole time.
Name, or did somebody buy IMG? Because the largest.
They still have IMG is still around. I just don't I don't know if it's still the largest sports agency like it was back then.
Yeah, the largest one now is that's why I thought it was IMG. God, I can't think of the name of it. They got all the quarterbacks, and because IMG had the tennis players, IMG had golfers,
basketball.
Yeah,
Bill Strickland had a lot of basketball guys for IMG. He was big about basketball. Yeah, that was but no, that was good stuff, man. Mason, man, I stayed with him the whole time. He was my agent the whole time.
Mason, cool dude, man. So I'm gonna try to interview Mason. I'm gonna get Mason on here. See if I can.
You got to get him on. Yeah, you talk about a guy, man, that's represented athletes, singers, actors.
But watch this. I think I told you this the other day when we talked. He denied it to the end, but I told him to represent Ricky Smiley. because I was talking to Ricky. This was like, I'm serious, man. Ricky was doing commercials for me, and this was like 96.
Birmingham's own.
Yeah, because Birmingham was, because Ricky was on the radio station in Birmingham. And so I was running ads for this phone company I had, and Ricky would do all my commercials. I mean, he had some hilarious commercials, but nobody really knew Ricky as much as Birmingham and maybe Atlanta. But I kept telling Mason, I'm like, man, this dude's going to be big. He's funny. He's going to be hilarious. Man, nobody know who Ricky Smiley is. I said, Mason, this dude going to be funny. Now, to this day, Mason tells me now, I never said that. I said, Mason, because I remember talking to Rick. I said, Rick, what you looking for? He said, man, I just need somebody who trusts me. Who I can trust, somebody who care about where I'm going, because, right now I'm just doing my thing. Because I asked him, I said, you got a manager or agent? He said, no. So that's when I called Mason. I said, man, this guy's going to blow up. Oh, man, nobody know Ricky Smiley. So I'm gonna interview him and see if he gonna admit that, because
I tell you what, you should have got him in the car with you and let him listen to the Ricky Smiley morning show.
Exactly.
He was doing there in Birmingham.
He was killing it.
He would have got it.
He was killing it on that morning show. Matter of fact, Rick told me he was doing so many commercials that at the time they wouldn't let him do any more of my commercials because he was on in the morning and they were running those commercials in the morning, and that they didn't want him to be on the air. And then that was at that time. I don't know. They still probably do. They probably do that now, but at that time they wouldn't do it. So, but I had talked to Rick since then, man. That's been 20 years almost. So, but yeah, I still remember that to the T. So now you go to Washington. All right, you get to the Redskins, and that was 99.
That was 99. Went to the Redskins 99.
That year you get there, what was y'all record?
I think we went 10-6 in the regular season, and then we went to the playoffs. We won the first round game, the wild card game, and then we ended up losing to Tampa. We lost to Tampa by 3 points the next round. Had them, should have beat them. Had some plays that happened, and wasn't able to pull it off. But I mean, we had a good year that year. Had a really good year. A lot of people didn't expect that. Next year, we had some really high expectations.
That was 2000, right? That's the year you had 9 first rounders starting. Name some of the guys that was on the team.
Well, we just on defense, we had 9 first rounders on our defense starting. Bruce Smith, Hall of Famer, he had come over from Buffalo. We had Deion Sanders came over from the Cowboys. We already had Champ Bailey, and we already had Darryl Green on that team, but had some other guys. Marco Coleman, first round DN, was playing with us. Big Daddy Dan Wilkerson playing D tackle inside. Dana Stubblefield was playing defensive tackle. Man, Mark Carrier was playing safety, first rounder from USC, who I thought, man, I thought he was really special as a safety. Just was a true ball hawk. And, man, there were a couple other guys. LeVar Arrington was playing linebacker. That's was a rookie. Rookie first-round pick. He was the second pick in the draft. And, man, there was another linebacker that was a first-rounder, Robert Evans. Was Darryl Green there?
Darryl
Green was there. Darryl Green was on that team. So we had 3 Hall of Fame corners.
Wow.
On one team. And we really, if we had stayed healthy, we had injuries on offense that hurt us. Michael Westbrook was playing receiver. He dealt with some injuries that year, was out. Stephen Davis had some nagging injuries. Our running back, who had been a Pro Bowler the year before. Our quarterback, Brad Johnson, kind of dealt with some injuries. We lost our top offensive lineman, guy by the name of Trey Johnson, that played O-line. So offensively, we had a hard time scoring points, but defensively, we were really good. We were top 5 defense. Matter of fact, we played the Ravens that year, and they won the Super Bowl that year, and they had a great defense. People say one of the best. Mm-hmm. And we ended up beating them at our place about the middle of the season. And, then those injuries just kind of kept, took their toll on us. And, so that was kind of the team that we thought we were going to go. And, you get those injuries and it doesn't happen. So we ended up 8-8 and didn't make the playoffs.
I remember. Well, let's talk about. I just read something 2 days ago that said the Redskins had the least amount of season tickets sold this year, and they almost is the worst fan base this year that they've seen. But in 2000,
wow.
The Redskins was the #1 fan base in the NFL. I remember that. They were the #1. They sold more tickets than anything in 2000.
Well, we played 4 games. We had 4 Monday night games that year. I mean, that's how.
Wow.
I mean, it was crazy. I mean, just because of the star power that we had on that team. You think about obviously Deion Sanders, who's still just a mega.
Hold on a second before you go into all that. Give me a Deion Sanders story because I know you got to have a prime time story. So let me hear.
I give you a quick one on Prime, man. I'll never forget. When he first got there, I wasn't playing like I started on defense, so I'd play kickoff team and punt team to help the team. Mm-hmm. But Prime made me want to play on the punt return team. He made me want to play punt return.
Oh, you can block for him or something?
Yeah, so I could block for him, but this is the reason. So the first special teams meeting we have, the special teams coordinator gets up, a guy named Charles Daniels, and he says, "Hey, Prime want to say something to you guys. Deion want to talk to the team for a minute, to the group, to the special team group." And he said, he walked up, he said, "I got 4 for the row." And I'm looking like, the row? He like, "I got 4 for the row." He was talking about Rolex. So basically what he said, if you're on the punt return team and he returned 4 punt returns for a touchdown,
everybody get a Rolex?
Everybody get a Rolex. So man, I was trying to get on the punt return team. Man, you talk about a guy, man, that he kept it light, man. He say some stuff.
I remember back in the day you told me one about when you did that commercial though. What about that one?
Oh man. Yeah, back then, like I said, we had all those big super national stars, like Champ and Dion and doggone LeVar, all those guys doing big national commercials. Well, I wasn't a bad player. Like I led the team in tackles the year before that, and was doing pretty good. And so I had some local stuff going on. Like I'd have like a car deal or autograph sessions I'd do at different places. But I had a clothing deal with a clothing store, and I did a commercial for them. So I go do this commercial, and when I go in, because I'd been on television before, like on little shows. And normally, with brothers, man, they'll kind of dash your forehead with a little bit of, makeup or whatever, keep the shine off that type of thing. Right. So there's certain things they do to prepare you to get on television. And so they didn't do none of that. I mean, I'm looking like I don't see hardly any lights for lighting, all that type of stuff. So I'm like, man, this thing gonna be bootleg, So I go ahead, I do the commercial, and about a week later, I'm sitting in the locker room.
Now, wait. What did the commercial show? Was it on cable or was it on?
Well, it was okay. So that's the funny part. So it was, back then, like you had your major stations, and then you had the little off-brand stations, and that only people in your town saw, and a lot of people didn't watch some of the stations. So it was on like a little station that I didn't think anybody was going to be paying attention to. I didn't think nobody was going to watch it, right? So sure enough, I'm sitting in the locker room one day. Deion comes in and he walks over. He says, "Shade, do you want me to bring the tape in or you gonna bring it in?" He said, "Man, that commercial was bootleg." I said, I just looked at him. I was like, man, he just started laughing, man.
Hey, out of all people, he the one who saw it.
Out of all people, he the one that saw it, man. And I'm telling you now. So I mean, he was a funny guy, though. He was funny.
So what was your best time in Washington that you could think of? Like, now, did you live in the city? You live in Maryland? Where did you live?
Well, it's kind of an interesting deal. It's the Washington Redskins. The team is not in D.C. They used to be in D.C. when they were playing at RFK Stadium. Mm-hmm. So the stadium is in Landover, Maryland.
Okay.
And the team practice facility is in Ashburn, Virginia, which is right next to Dulles Airport.
Okay.
So actually the practice facility and the stadium without traffic are about 50 minutes apart.
Wow.
With traffic, which in DC there's always a lot of traffic.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Talking about over an hour drive to get there. So
right.
It was just kind of an interesting deal. But I lived out in Virginia. Pretty much everybody, all our players lived out in Virginia.
Kind of in between?
Yeah. Say again?
Was it kind of in between?
Well, no, actually, most guys lived in Ashburn, right out by the practice facility.
Oh, okay.
I probably lived about 15, 20 minutes from the practice facility. Actually, I always went against traffic when I was going. So I lived a little bit closer to DC. So I'd be driving out, toward Ashburn. So really didn't have to be in any traffic and stuff like that. You kind of asked me about what was kind of my best, I guess, some of my best times in
right.
Well, the first thing is just same thing. The thing about the NFL, you meet some guys that you probably never would have met from all over the country. Guys like Darryl Green, who I consider him like a big brother to me. He actually this past week came and spoke to our team over at college. Yeah, he came by first day of classes for this semester. He calls me a few days before because he'll call every now and then, and just it could be a month or two, but we always pick up where we left off. That's how guys are.
Yeah.
And so he says, "Hey Shay, man, I'm coming through your town, man. I'm going to Houston, which is his hometown." And he says, "So, man, I want to talk to some of your players for you, like we've been talking about." So I'm like, "Man, we got a team meeting going on. You're gonna be right on time." So,
wow.
Did
those guys actually appreciate? Do they know who he is? I know their parents probably know, but do they know who Darryl Green is?
Well, I showed a great video on him.
Okay.
I showed a video, that talked about him being, one of the top 100 players to ever play. Also being a first ballot Hall of Famer. He actually, a lot of people don't know it, but he won that fastest man competition, NFL fastest man competition. He won it 4 times. Every time he did it, he won it. But talked about him playing 20 years and just being a great teammate. Did
him and Prime ever go at it running? Did they ever race?
You know what's funny? They never raced in Washington. Everybody wanted to see it, but they never raced. It is funny. One of my players actually asked D Green. He asked him. One of my players asked D Green. He said, "Hey man, who was the fastest between you and Dion? Did y'all ever race when y'all was in Washington?" And so he was like, "Nah." He said, "We never raced," but he said, "Now this is what Darryl. Now Darryl, you talking about a guy. He seems mild mannered, but he likes competition."
Right.
And so he said, "Yeah, we never raced, but they did invite him to the NFL fastest man deal, and he never showed up." So I guess that was Darryl's way of saying that he probably was faster. So,
he didn't want to compete. I got you. He didn't want to compete.
But you never know. He might have been playing baseball too, because that was the thing about Prime, man. Talking to him back then. A lot of people saw the glitz and glamour. I don't think people realized how hard he worked. Like I remember having a conversation with him, and we were talking about just going. I said, man, I said one day, I said, man, where all have you been? In the world or whatever. And he's like, he said, really, man, I haven't. He's like, he hadn't been a lot of places. And I said, man, come on, man. He's like, nah. He said because. He said, doing the football and baseball thing, he just said he would go right from football to baseball. So he didn't have a lot of free time to travel and stuff. Yeah. And matter of fact, he just said that when he married his second wife, that was the first time he had really been out of the country. They got married in the islands or something like that. So, so you can appreciate, guys like that, Hall of Famers. yes, they're great athletes. Him and Darrell Green, just super athletes. They've been given a lot of God-given ability, but the work ethic that those guys have is just it's unbelievable.
Yeah, the work, man. I can imagine that. Now, I remember, I think it was your last year. It might have been your last year. 2002. Was it 2002 was your last year? You were injured, right? I think
2002. I had a neck injury late in the season. I think it was about the 10th game of the season. I had a neck injury. Went on injury reserve, and basically after seeing a few doctors and specialists, had one of the doctors, tell me, said, "Mr. Shade, I just got to tell you, I don't know. The next time you go out there and hit somebody, you might not get up." And so, that was enough for me to say, hey, it's time to walk away from it. It was tough. It was tough to do it, but it was the right thing to do.
That's crazy, because what I'm about to say is it's kind of the same thing this happened to Micah Irvin on the field in Philadelphia. And that's what you made sure didn't happen to you. But I wanted to talk about that year you gave me 2 tickets. I don't know if you remember, to go to the Redskins and the Philly game. That was the last NFC East game at the Vet.
Oh,
because
wow.
They was tearing down the Vet that year. They was going to tear down
Wow.
Yeah. And so I was there. You gave me some excellent seats, man. I was there, took a part
of behind the Redskins bench.
Yeah, right behind the bench, man. I mean, it was excellent, man. I was like, but it was so many fights in the stand. I didn't know how Philly, man, they fight so much. I didn't know they had a courtroom in the stadium. You know what I'm saying? They were taking jokers to the courtroom, and people were pulling off bleachers and stuff, even though they had one more game. I think they had a Tampa game or something. But that was the last NFC East game in Veterans Memorial Stadium in Philadelphia, because they blew it up and built another stadium. I still remember that game.
Well, I bet it was really crazy in that game, though.
Oh, yeah.
Just because of the significance of the game, the last game in that stadium.
Oh, man, it was crazy. I mean, it was insane. It was fights everywhere, man. I'm glad I didn't come in there with no gear on or nothing. I just came in, had a good time, had a partner of mine with me, and they had a great time, though. So, man, let me ask you a few questions. I'm gonna ask you a few trivia questions. Okay. About Bama. See if you know. The mascot, the dude on the big elephant on the sideline, what's his name?
Big Al.
That's an easy one. So I'm gonna start off with that. I got some more for you. Who did Alabama beat in the 1993 Sugar Bowl?
That's another easy one. University of Miami Hurricanes.
All right. Okay. All right. Derek Thomas set a record for most sacks in the career at Bama. How many sacks did he get
in a career
at Bama? He set the record.
Man, that's a tough one. I knew the season one was like 20 something, wasn't it? For a season?
I don't know. I just got the answer for the whole career at Bama.
All right, you got to give me the answer on that.
52. 52. That was the record. Yeah.
How many?
52.
Wow, 52 sacks in 4 years. This could have been. I can't remember what year Bobby Humphrey came out.
Did he go first round?
He went first round also.
To
Denver.
Okay. Wow. You ever see Biscuit?
I used to see him a little bit. He lives down in South Florida, but his mother actually lives right next door to one of my first cousins down in like the Harrytown, Pleasant Grove area. Okay. Now his mother passed away, so obviously I hadn't seen him in a while, but I used to see him sometimes when he was at his mother's house if I was at my cousin's house. Yeah.
What did you like about his game?
Oh man, Biscuit was versatile, man. I mean, number one, he could run. I mean, he that was the thing about him and Derek Thomas. Watching those guys, like for me as a young guy, back when they were playing, I was early high school, maybe middle school. I mean, those guys were athletic, they could run, and they were physical guys. And, those are things I liked about, just watching them run guys down and things like that. But it's kind of funny, like you said, I really paid more attention to guys like like Bobby Humphrey, for instance, when I was growing up, because I was a running back growing up. And so I wanted to be, kind of wanted to be the next Bobby Humphrey when I went to Alabama, but played both ways in high school, and they felt like they needed me on defense more than on offense, because they had guys, like you said, Derek Lassick, second round draft pick at running back, Sherman Williams. We came in together.
Right.
And there were some other guys. There's some other guys that played pro ball that were running back. So
Hump played at Glenn, right?
Bobby Humphrey played at Glenn.
Yeah.
Right off the interstate.
Yeah.
Right off the interstate.
I went to Glenn summer school one year, man. That was the best time I ever had. Glenn was known for and they don't have that anymore. Those remember we used to have shop where you go learn to be a mechanic, you can go learn to do a lot of stuff. They had and they took that out of the schools, man. So people would leave high school with trades.
That's funny you say that. They still actually got it here in Alabama and Birmingham. Really? Matter of fact, I was talking to a recruit. We had a recruiting weekend this past weekend. Had some guys in, and one of the local guys. I won't name the high school, but they've still got like the automotive shop, the what do you call it, collision, where they can fix. They can do like dents and all that type of stuff, fix all that. They've still got it. So it's actually still pretty big. And some places have, for instance, where I know there's one county here in Alabama where they've got this Academy of Crafts where students actually leave school at a certain time of day and they can go do HVAC, plumbing, all those different trades. And a lot of them, as soon as they get out of high school, they've got jobs because they've been doing that. So
that's a good thing, man. Because I remember, my high school had it, but they took it away, and they started taking it away from a lot of schools. So I'm assuming they brought them back. But Glenn was big for that. Glenn had whole separate side of the campus was, for that kind of stuff.
I didn't know that. One of my brother-in-laws, who's older than me, he actually did welding at Winona. And I know at one time, I won't say where he was working, but he was working for a company and he was making over $100,000 a year. I mean,
really?
Yeah, he was doing one of the automotive companies here in Alabama. That's become pretty big because you've got Mercedes. Mercedes is here, Honda, Hyundai. So you've got a lot of auto suppliers here, and so they do a lot of that work for Mercedes and places like that. So. There's some alternative opportunities for students that don't want to go to a 4-year college or things like that.
That's pretty cool. Funny story. I used to think like Biscuit was like, what year did he graduate from high school? Was it 83, 84? I can't remember.
I'm not sure.
If he went to the league in 87, did he play 4 years?
He did.
Okay. He did. So that means he had to graduate in 83.
Right. That'd be dead on. He would have played 83, 84, 85, 86. Right.
So he was a couple years. He was a couple years behind me. But I remember in high school when we played Inslee, his school, it was a dude on his team, man, that we used to call neck roll. Because he used to wear this big old neck roll around. You remember the neck rolls the players wear? Did you have a neck roll?
Man, I wore one maybe once in Little League. It didn't feel good, so I stopped wearing it.
So we were watching neck roll on film, man. He come down killing people. And I thought afterwards when I left high school and, went on, I thought, because I went to Jackson State, and I thought that was Biscuit. Okay. And I realized it wasn't him. It was another dude on his team, man, in Inslee. This dude, man, he was a beast, man. He's had his big neck roll on. And we watched him on film, and he just come down, just tearing people down, man. I was like, but that wasn't him. So I don't know. I can't even think anybody else who left Inslee that did anything. I don't know if you know did anybody else go to Bama from Inslee?
They had some guys after you and a little bit before me that went to like Auburn. There's a guy named Tony Russell went down to Auburn. He was a couple years ahead of me. They had another guy, I forget his name, big, tall receiver / tight end that also went to Auburn. Okay. It was kind of fun. I think they kind of had an Auburn connection after Biscuit left and went to Alabama. because they had a couple guys. Matter of fact, a guy named Ramon Luster, a good friend of mine, played linebacker. We both came out the same year. He went to Auburn, I went to Alabama.
From Inslee?
Yeah, he was from Inslee.
Okay, all right. Let's run through a few little mental toughness questions and ask you this. Do you think that sports help cultivate that mental toughness for your mindset from growing up as a kid, playing sports and all of that? And how does it help some kid now? Because a lot of kids, well, you got parents are saying they don't want the kids to play football.
Well, first off, I feel like sports definitely plays a part in helping develop mental toughness in young men. I'm a big believer in it. Obviously, I look at myself. I talk to you about some of the things I went through, in college football, the ups and downs that you go through, the adversity that you face, and you learn how to face that adversity. Because one thing about football, for instance, when you're playing football, we video everything. Mm-hmm. So, if you're out there and you're shying away from stuff or you're not competing the way you need to compete, it's going to get pointed out. And either you're going to quit the team or you're going to keep doing it until, you finally realize, hey, I've got to do better. So I think it teaches you to face adversity and to push through things and to persevere when times get tough. And I've seen that not just for myself, but I've got teammates that have gone through things in sports that's helped them later on in life.
So they would point that out on when y'all would have film day or whatever. Would that be for the defense only and offense only? So y'all would be there and they would point out some things in front of everybody?
Well, so when I was at Bama, like I said, Gene Stallings, our head coach, man, you talking about holding you accountable, and he didn't care who you were. He pointed you out. So on Mondays, so when I was in school, after our games on Saturday, we would have Sunday off. Now, some people do it differently. Some people go in on Sundays and have Monday off. But back when I was in school, we would have Sunday off. We'd go in and have meetings on Monday. And basically, Coach Stallings would call it Tell the Truth Monday, where basically the whole team's sitting in there and we're watching the good and the bad. And it didn't matter whether we won or lost, that good and bad tape was going to get showed and he was going to point guys out. And I mean, like, I'd be sitting there like, oh man, he about to get to that play where I missed that tackle or I got ran over or something like that. So, I thought that was good because, it puts you on the spot in front of your teammates and you had to make a choice, a decision. Are you going to keep letting that happen? You're going to come in here every week and he's going to talk about the same thing, going to talk about you. So I thought that was really good. He held a lot of guys accountable by doing that.
Are you doing that?
Say again?
Are you doing that?
You know what? I do some of that, but, what I tend to do, I try to let my coaches take ownership. The way that I coach, I talk about my defense coordinator. He's the head coach of the defense. Offense coordinator, he's the head coach of the offense. And so I try to let those guys take ownership. So I do point some things out. I will do that every now and then. I won't do it every week. And, now it's a little bit different as far as just the way we do our meetings and stuff. Like I don't like to take up too much time having the whole team in a meeting for 30 minutes because now the NCAA says that you can't you can't spend with 20 hours a week with those players. So we have to be strategic in how we do those meetings and stuff.
Ed said the most important thing is film study. Why? Because you have to watch yourself repetitively over and over and over again doing the same things.
I'll never forget this. The first time I met Ray, he said, believe what you see and what you study. What you study on this tape and what you see, it's gonna happen. It's just a matter of time when.
Me and him always used to say this. You can fool us once, but you will never fool us twice. This guy, they're gonna put this same formation and they're gonna flip it. But this same play, I want you to watch. I hesitated. Go. You saw me? Watch this. Hesitate. Go block. Right. Now watch this. A few plays later, that same play gonna come back to haunt him.
If you got beat on the play the week before or in the first half, they gonna come back to it. Like Ray said, they came back to the play.
Same play. Remember, this time, the tight end was on the line to the right. That's why the game is so repetitive.
Believe
It'll never
it.
change. Look,
Believe
you'll
it
never get me
now,
twice.
guys.
You'll never get me twice.
Believe it, man. Believe it.
The game is mastery, guys. If you're playing against Peyton, and Peyton comes up to the line and he sees Ed cheating, he check it. If Ed checking, Ed looking at me saying, Lou, we gotta switch that. We check. Brady come to the line, Brady checking, we check it. Switch that, switch that. No, we gotta go this side. No, tight end gonna go on motion. Right. But when you have to play against minds, every little thing is a chess match. It ain't checkers. In college and high school, y'all playing checkers. Usually the best player can double jump and do all this. Man, when you get to the league, partner, it's a whole nother ball game.
Did you play other sports? You played basketball or baseball?
I played basketball growing up and ran track growing up. Actually, track was, I really enjoyed running track, love running track. Matter of fact, I thought I wanted to run track in college because I ran in high school. So, I went out to the end of my freshman year. They had this thing in Alabama called Alabama Relays, and they'd have teams from all over the country come in for this meet. And I mean, they were from everywhere.
Oh, yeah, I remember Alabama. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I go to the meet, and so, I'm in the stands watching because I'm thinking about going out for the team. And there was a guy that went to high school with me that was faster than me. He was running at Southern Miss. There was another guy that was the fastest guy in the city that was running in a race. And one of my teammates, a guy named Kevin Lee, who was a second-round pick to New England, wide receiver. And so all these guys could fly. And they're running the 200 meters. And so they take off, and we're all trying to figure out who's going to win. We didn't know the other guys, but there were two guys that smoked those guys. I'm talking about blew the doors off of them.
Really?
After that, I didn't want to run track no more. In college. I was like, forget that. I know those guys are fast because I've been running against them.
I'm about to take you back. You probably didn't even know this. Did you know they used to have track meets at Legion Field?
Didn't know that.
Watch this. My dad taught at Hudson Elementary School over in Carver, over North Birmingham, right down the street from Carver, right? So is Hudson still there?
Hudson, actually, I think it is still there. I don't know if it's a school anymore.
But he also coached track. So when I was real young, I would go, and if you know how the where all the fans walk around the field, the stadium around the gate, that was a track.
Okay, I can see that now.
Man, I'm gonna tell you something. When you would come around that track, it was actually like where the locker room is.
Right.
That was like a tunnel. So players, track stars when they were running that 100 meter, what you call it, 480? The 480?
100 meter, they would run through the tunnel?
Yes, and boy, somebody would go through the tunnel first and they'd come out on the other side behind. Because you couldn't tell. Once they went through that tunnel, you couldn't see. And so they went through that tunnel and looped around. And when they came out, it was always somebody else. Because in that tunnel, somebody would walk them down. Man, that was crazy. I still remember sitting in the stands watching that because we would see everybody go in that tunnel and we would wait for them to go around the locker room and then come out on the other side. And there's always somebody else that came out on the other side, man.
Wow.
Yeah, that was crazy, man. That was back in the day when they did that at Legion Field. Which sport do you think has the most, where you have to be the most mentally tough? I know you're gonna say football. That's what you play, but is it? What do you think?
Well, obviously, I would think football, but I think in all sports you got to have a level of mental toughness. I think you've got to, whether it's basketball, baseball, you get up there to the plate. You're up there by yourself, all eyes on you. Whether you're a pitcher, or whether you're the guy that's up the bat. All eyes on you. So you got to have a certain level of mental toughness to go out and compete. And to do it over and over again and, be consistent in what you do. that's the thing that you're always striving for. Like we talk about, for instance, with our team, I talk to our guys about it's almost like school. You're always trying to be perfect. You're always trying to make a 100, make an A+, all that type of stuff. Now, we know that's not always going to happen.
Right.
But we want to get as close to that as possible. So I think you've got to have a level of mental toughness to always be striving for that. And even when you don't have success, it's like I tell my players, I remember playing in the NFL, and it's kind of funny. It's all about the matchups. They used to have a show called NFL Matchups, and they showed this left tackle against this DN, this cornerback against this receiver, all that stuff. And to me, that's how it was. And so I can remember playing ball games that we lost the game. Well, we won the game, and I might have felt like I lost. And somebody said, "Why did you feel that way?" Well, because the guy I was going against, he had more wins against me than I had against him.
On film day, you're gonna see that.
Yeah. So that was kind of my thing. I tell my guys, look, I mean, you're always trying to win your matchups, and you want to be as close to 100% as possible. Now that ain't gonna always happen. Like right. I tell you. I can remember playing NFL and, playing safety when it was passing situations. I used to cover the top tight ends like Tony Gonzalez or Shannon Sharp, or sometimes I cover like the good pass catching running backs, like Marshall Faulk, guys like that. And that's tough duty.
Right.
So yeah. I can remember one game I was in Cincinnati. We played Denver. And I had a pretty good game against Shannon Sharp, that year. Mm-hmm. Well, 2 years later, I'm in Washington, and he's with Baltimore with the Ravens. And we win the game, but I felt like I lost because he caught like 6 or 7 balls on me that game. He didn't score. He didn't catch a touchdown. Yeah. But man, he gave me that work that day. And
was he talking smack, or was he what?
No, he wasn't talking smack. He was just playing. I mean, he was locked in, focused. He was playing, and he had an answer.
He remembered you. He already said, "I got to get this back."
You know what? I kind of thought about it like that because I said maybe I think he must have thought about the game before.
What do you think you learned from the NFL that made you feel like you could coach?
Well, I'll tell you one thing I learned, and learned this from some veteran guys, older guys when I first got to the NFL. You always had guys, to me, just most guys that make it to an NFL training camp, they're good enough. They're good enough, but there's only so many spots. It's a numbers game.
Right.
Well, and some guys get caught up in that. Like I've seen young guys come in and they start doing the math and counting. They're like, well, they're only going to keep 5 cornerbacks, or they're only going to keep 4 safeties. So, man, I'm not going to make the team.
Mentally, they already out of it.
And so they don't physically walk away from the team, but they mentally check out.
Yeah.
And they stop really like locking in and studying and focusing. And so to me, they cut themselves.
Right.
And one thing I learned from the NFL is don't cut yourself. And the older guys used to say to the young guys, they say, look, hey, man, do the best you can do. Prepare as hard as you can during the week, and then go out and play as hard as you can play. And if it's not good enough, there's 31 other teams out there.
Yeah.
31 others. And so I can remember a couple guys. I played with a guy in Cincinnati. He gets cut from the Bengals. He goes to Denver, wins the Super Bowl.
Wow.
Same year he gets cut from us. He goes to Denver, wins the Super Bowl. Same thing. I'm in Washington. Guy got cut from us, goes to New England to the Patriots, wins the Super Bowl. So that's how I look at. Don't cut yourself. So in coaching, for me, I'm always going to do the best job I can do. And if it's not good enough, then, hey, you learn from it and you move on, and the thing about coaching, sometimes if it's not good enough, then you do have to move on. But there are other teams out there.
Prime said you either
He said you're either being terminated or
elevate. Yeah.
yeah. So that's what I took from NFL. So I don't get caught up in, especially when, I've coached high school ball and, even college, but, you have a lot of parents that, feel a certain way about their kids. And then you just have people that think they know the game, that don't really know the game. And so I don't listen to the outside noise and all that type of stuff. I tell my coaches, if they're not in here every day watching film and at practice with you, why are you listening to them? They don't know the team like you know the team. They don't know the players the way you know the players.
So let's talk about Briarwood. Then was it Cleveland next, or was it Georgia State?
Well, my oldest son actually, when I moved to Birmingham, just kind of a interesting deal.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought I wanted to coach. Never thought I wanted to teach and coach. I got a finance degree from Alabama. Thought out the football, I'd go into business. Didn't know if I'd go into banking or whatever. Or I actually got my insurance license when I first got out of football here in Birmingham, and kind of dibbled and dabbled in that. But my oldest son was playing football at a school called Briarwood Christian. It's a private school. And so a friend of mine was coaching there, a buddy of mine from Alabama. So he got me to volunteer coach. And so I actually did it with my oldest son team. He was in middle school, did ninth grade, did varsity. And next thing you know, a guy by the name of Pat Sullivan, who we talked about earlier, who had recruited me to Auburn, we had a great relationship. And this, Pat Sullivan is actually from West End, was supposed to go to West End High School.
Right.
But went to John Carroll. But,
right.
He called me up, had me come over, talk to me a little bit. He had been kind of following me, since I started coaching high school ball, and basically offered me a job coaching defensive backs. And so, I went from, the high school level to college, and the rest was kind of.
Was your son playing then when you coached the defensive backs?
Well, actually, my oldest son was actually a linebacker. He played running back and linebacker. So I wasn't really coaching him per se.
But he was there.
He was there. But I went to Sanford. I actually went to Sanford. I was at Sanford a year before he came. So he actually, I was
wait. Well, okay, I thought it was Briarwood first.
Right. But my son, when I took the Sanford job, he was still in high school.
That's where you okay.
He was still in high school. He didn't come till later.
Okay.
He came over later.
So you were at Sanford 4 years?
I was at Sanford seven and a half years.
Wow. The classic game, Alabama State A&M. That's a big game every year in Birmingham.
Big game.
Yep.
Huge.
But I remember your senior year. You remember what the big game was? Because I saw you at the game. I didn't go to the classic. I went to another game.
Oh, you talking about Sanford and Alcorn State?
Alcorn with Steve McNair. Because it was packed out at Legion Field and it was packed out at Stanford. And they went into halftime. Alcorn was down by 30-some points, right?
That's right.
McNair came back and they tied. I think the game was a tie. It ended in a tie, right?
I can't recall. I know they came back. I know McNair. That was the largest game at Sanford. Probably in their history.
Man,
that was a huge game.
That game was packed out. But they went. Alcorn went in at halftime down like 30-0. And Al McNair came out that second half, man, and he lit them up, boy. He came out. I mean, I want to say the game ended 36-36 or something like that. I'm about to Google it and check it out.
Number 30, Jabbar Jalil. And strong safety, number 3. At corner, number 44, Jerry Wilson.
Get it up, we right here. Get it up.
you have anybody at Sanford that went to the league?
Oh, okay. As far as players, when I coached
Like
there,
you were there for 7 years. You were there.
I tell you what, while I was there, we actually, man, we had 2 defensive backs that were second round draft picks. We had a couple defensive linemen. Matter of fact, we've got a kid. There's a guy, James Bradbury, plays for the Philadelphia Eagles. The other corner, he's 24. He starts for the Eagles. He actually was a second round pick. One of the guys I coached while I was there. From Pleasant Grove, right here in Birmingham, from Pleasant Grove. Had another guy. We had a D lineman that was there, a guy named Nick Williams from Minor. He's playing for I think Chicago or Detroit, playing D line. But we actually, I tell you, we did pretty good. Did a good job of evaluating talent, but also developing those guys when they got there. You know, I feel like we did a really good job of developing those guys. And people say, well, what are you talking about? Like, we had a safety guy named Jaquaski Tart that he got drafted second round. So he went to San Francisco and he played like 7 years with San Fran. And so anyway, when he went out to San Francisco, he comes back to Birmingham that summer after minicamp, all that stuff. So, you know, I'm one of those guys. I'm always looking to get better. I don't feel like I know it all. So I asked him, I sat him down. I said, well, hey, you know, how'd everything go? And then I was like, man, you learn anything new? You know, and I'm just trying to, you know, pick his brain. And he said, Coach, he said, shoot, man, everything we doing out there, we were doing here. You know, he's talking about as far as the drills and techniques and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So anyway, he says, Coach, he said, but Coach, man, some of these guys don't know nothing. You know, like he's like, some of these guys don't seem like they coached at all.
Right.
And so I'm like, what are you talking about? He was like, what? He said, man, he said, Coach, like this one guy, man, shit, Coach, the coach had to go over everything with him, man. They have to like keep him out there and do the drills. He had like he never did the drills. And I'm like, well, man, everybody don't have the same coaching in college. He's like, but Coach, man, he played in the SEC. So I'm like, I said, okay, you know, but you know, that was kind of a funny deal. And
you know, I had a partner of mine who swears. He says the reason Dion is probably going to be successful at Colorado and everywhere he goes. And you tell me how you feel about this. He says college is more about recruiting. NFL is more about X and O's. You recruit good talent.
Absolutely. My high school coach, a guy by the name of Ron Cheatham, and I don't know if you remember that name. He's older than you, but he went to Phillips High School, was a linebacker, and they say he was one of the best linebackers in around the area. And then he went to Southern Miss and played. Okay. But he always said, he said, Sam, it's not about those it's not as much about those X's and O's as you think. It's about those Jimmys and Joes. And, you know, he's talking about players. And in college, recruiting is a big part of it. I've had guys, I had a older coaching friend of mine tell me once that he was coaching on a team, one of the top teams in the country at the time. And he said they had a coach on the staff that really didn't seem like he knew what he was doing from a coaching standpoint. Mm-hmm. And so this guy and another coach on defense, you know, they go to the head coach complaining about the guy. And the head coach says, hey, don't y'all worry about him. He's here to recruit. Y'all here to coach.
Exactly.
You know, so yeah. You know, it is, but I think you really got to try to balance it.
Balance it out, yeah.
You know, obviously you want to be able to recruit good talent, but, you know, I also feel like, you know, these are young men that, you know, they've got these high hopes and dreams, and, you know, some of them have really good God-given ability, and you want them to have the best opportunity. Like if they're good enough, you don't want it to be they don't get an opportunity because of coaching. And I'll say this to you, and it's kind of an interesting deal. And, So the guy was talking about James Bradbury when I was recruiting him out of high school. You know, one of the things I told him, I said, because he believe it or not, he was talking about NFL as a senior in high school. And he's talking about, you know, but I think he was doing it because other schools were saying, you know, hey, we got guys that have gone to the NFL. If you come here, you know, you can go to the NFL too, all this type of stuff. And so all I told the kid, I said, well, look, I said, if you're good enough and God willing, you can stay healthy, then yes, you can, you know, you will be able to go play, because I feel like, you know, I can give you enough coaching to help you do that. You know, but it's still, you know, it's still up to how hard you work. It's still up to, you know, if Lord willing, you stay healthy. I tell people all the time, they ask, man, how'd you play 8 years in the league? And, you know, I say that was, you know, that was God's plan.
Yeah.
You know, because
you had to be tough though, man, mentally and physically. But that mental thing, like you said, some guys give up mentally, and once they give up mentally, it's over with, man. You have guys. I think I was watching. I think it was. What's the show that comes on each year where they go to the camp and they watch and they film the NFL team? Hard Knocks. I was watching Hard Knocks, and there's one guy that just gave up. I don't know if he was on the Falcons or some team or whatever, and he just left the squad. He just said, I'm gone. I'm done. And they tried to talk him because he could play.
Right.
But mentally, he was gone. He was
Right.
like, you know, I can't do this no more.
Right.
And he actually left the squad.
That's you know, and that's what we mean by that mental toughness. You know, it's funny you talk about mental toughness, mindset. And obviously, mental health is a big thing in our society nowadays. And I think there were some guys, you know, even when I played, that might have had some things going on, but might not have felt comfortable enough to say, "Hey, man, I need some help." Me as a college head coach, you know, I've got to kind of have an eye on guys and see changes in attitude and changes in the way guys are acting, and look at body language, stuff like that. I had one of my friend of mine who's a college head coach, and he told me that we were talking this year, and he said he had a situation where one of his players, I won't say which position, but it was one of the top positions on the team. In this middle of the season, and the guy comes to him and he says, "Coach, I need to take a week or two off, you know, for mental health." Wow. I mean, this is one of his top players, and you know what do you do? Yeah. Middle of the season, he's got to, you know, it's almost like when Tom Brady, you know, left camp for 10 days. Because
Dennis Rodman,
he ends up
getting Rodman when he left the Bulls. Remember, George said they let Dennis Rodman go to Vegas for a week so he can. Yeah, I got to go party, man. Michael Jordan said he might not come back, Coach. He said, well, we got to let Dennis go, man, so he can go. You know. Well,
but now you look back on it, and it was the perfect thing for him.
Yeah, you're right. It was.
It was the perfect medicine for him, and you know, well, just like you know the Tom Brady deal this year when he it took like 10 days from training camp, and nobody really knew, but you know
what was going on.
He ends up getting a divorce. You know.
Yep. He knew he was going through something. Right. Now, Miles College, man, HBCU. I'm so familiar with Miles because my family, my grandmother. House was 5 minutes from Miles College. They grew up in Fairfield. So when I used to go to Fairfield, stay with my grandmother, we always had to go around Miles College. And I'm going to tell you,
near Lord Nolan Hospital back in the day?
Oh, yeah. Lord Nolan, man. Look, let me tell you something. I went to the hospital this year for the first time. And the last time I was at the hospital, I was 5 years old. I mean, checked into the hospital. I was 5 years old at Lord Nolan with walking pneumonia. I remember that. My mom told me about that. But since then, I had never actually been back and checked into a hospital since Lord Nolan when I was 5 years old. But what I remember more about Miles College was the Magic City Classic parade downtown. And when we was to go, that Miles College band comes stepping down the street there, man. That was a big parade that the A&M and State
Purple
Classic.
marching machine, man.
Oh yeah.
They're still strong, man.
Okay, man. I would love to see that. That parade was second to none, man.
It was. It was. I tell you, interesting fact. I was actually born at Lord Nolan, so all these years later, I'm literally 2 minutes from
wow,
from Lord Nolan, going to work every day.
So, how did it happen? Somebody recommended you. Were you looking to go to the HBCU? Were you looking to coach college?
Well, so it's kind of I have to go back to when I was coaching at Sanford. As an assistant, you kind of doing your thing, and then you start kind of having some aspirations, and you see yourself doing some other things. And one of the things I saw myself doing was being a college head coach during that time. And so you don't just, once you say that's what I want to be, you start looking at ways to get there.
Right.
And so I actually had an opportunity at one time. I thought I was going to go be a defensive coordinator for a new head coach at a SWAC school, a guy that was a friend of mine. I won't name him right now, but I was going to leave Sanford to do that. But one of the reasons I was going to do it, I felt like if I did a good job as a defense coordinator on that level, I get an opportunity to be a head coach in college. But before that happened, I ended up going to Georgia State University in Atlanta and coached there for a year. And then the next year, I found myself with the Cleveland Browns.
That's what the part we skipped. I was going to say, let's get to Cleveland. Yeah. How was that?
I tell you, Cleveland was a great experience. Like for me, it was kind of interesting because Hugh Jackson was coming off of an 0-16 season.
Right.
And so that's when that opportunity presented itself to me. So part of me, just knowing the NFL the way I knew it, I knew that if we didn't start off good, they were probably going to get rid of Hugh Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like, okay, there's a strong chance this is what you call a one and done in coaching. But
wait a minute. Is that because once they get rid of the head coach, they wipe out everybody? Or because
that's what normally happens. That's what normally happens. When they get rid of the head coach, they pretty much normally get rid of everybody else. It might be one or two guys that can, that can stay for different reasons or whatever. But so I knew that, but it was an opportunity to coach in the NFL, and I just couldn't pass that up. Didn't have to pray much about that one. When that opportunity presented itself, I knew I was going to take it if I got the job after I went and interviewed, all that type of stuff. And that's exactly what happened. We started off slow, and they ended up getting rid of Coach Jackson, and so. But I still had a great experience. I had a great experience on that level, working with some of the guys we work with up there. Matter of fact, Nick Chubb was actually. They drafted Nick Chubb that year, Denzel Ward, obviously Baker Mayfield, those guys. But we had Chubb wasn't starting the first few games when he got there. So he actually was playing special teams. So I can remember coaching him on special teams, stuff like that. Working with Denzel Ward, first round corner, and just a lot of great guys that I had an opportunity to spend time around.
Where is Ward now?
He's still in Cleveland.
Okay.
He'll probably be there for a while. He signed a long-term deal a while back. But and there were some great coaches, some really good coaches that I had a chance to spend time around. Greg Williams was defense coordinator, and he ended up being the interim head coach. And we actually got it turned around.
Greg Williams, the one that was at the Saints that had to sit out. Did he sit out a year? No,
yeah, he did. Yeah.
He and Sean Payton had to sit out a year.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, he was
the bounty. Did he ever bring that subject up? Does he seem like that kind of guy? Like he's so tough that is he? I'm not saying I'm not trying to call him out as a bounty hunter. The NFL called him out as a bounty hunter.
In actuality, I I was working with special teams. So I got a chance. That's how I got a chance to work with, the offensive guys and defensive guys like Nick Chubb and those guys and Denzel Ward. But when I could, I tried to spend as much time around the defensive guys. I would try to help them out on the field if they needed things done, that type of stuff. But really kind of seemed like I got to know him a little bit more when he became the interim head coach, because then he had to interact with the whole coaching staff and staff meetings and stuff like that. And I actually thought he did a good job as the interim head coach. He's one of those guys that I think coaches are different. Some coaches have certain styles. Some coaches are just themselves. I really feel like Coach Williams, he could kind of be who he thought he needed to be for whoever he's coaching. Like, he was one of those guys that it seemed like he tried to get the whole defense at times to be against him in order for them to come together.
I got you. Okay.
That's just kind of, something I kind of saw.
That's a mental strategy.
I thought it was very interesting. I really paid attention to it. But then when he became the head coach, the interim head coach, I felt like he changed and he tried to be what the team needed him to be. And I thought he did a good job of that. I was actually impressed with, how he was able to change for the different roles.
Speaking of bounty hunter, I skipped this one. I know when you at the Redskins, you got 2 penalties for head hunting. What were those two? You remember, one was a quarterback, I remember, on the goal line or something, and then it was another one. And this was before, they started really looking at the concussion thing and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I know you got 2 penalties for, I don't know, it was 2 separate games. I remember that. I know you remember those.
I can remember it because, I'm $20,000 less.
I was about to ask you that. I thought, does some teams pay the fines for the players and some teams don't?
It depends on what the fine is. Like those situations, they don't. If it was something they felt like,
can you do a payment plan?
No. They just go ahead and get it. Go ahead and get it.
Okay.
But actually, both situations, I wasn't trying to hit those guys in the head. It was a situation. The quarterback actually was taller than me. I'm blitzing right up the middle.
Do you remember who the quarterback was?
Say again?
Do you remember who the quarterback was?
It was actually Charlie Batch. He was playing for Detroit. And I was blitzing right up the middle.
Man? Why you want to do Charlie Batch like that?
Say again?
Why you want to do Charlie Batch like that, man?
No. I mean, I'm going to sack the quarterback. He's taller than me. And so I'm going to hit him square in the chest. And at the last minute, he ducks and my helmet hits his helmet. So a lot of that stuff happens so fast, man. That's why, I kind of hate when they rewind it and go in slow motion. It's like the game's not played in slow motion. Trust me, I'm not like a samurai warrior where I can slow everything down and, I'm going to hit him too high. I got to get low. It's like you take off and you get about a yard or two away, and now you've got an aiming point that you're trying to get to. So if a guy ducks or turns a certain way, you're going to hit him in a different position.
10, the quarterback rating of 17.5, and he gets sacked again. Sam Shade. 5 sacks for the Redskins. Sam Shade on the safety blitz. Sends Ferrant right into the shadows.
For me as a coach, what we talk about is, we talk about that there's a strike zone on a guy that we try to keep guys under. And obviously, the big thing for us is keeping guys under, the underarm, like keeping you down in this area. So that's what I try to do as a coach. But I do realize the game is played, man, it's played very fast by talented athletes.
What was the other one?
Oh, the other one, it was a tight end in Jacksonville. We're playing Jacksonville, and this tight end, he's going down the middle of the field, and I'm in cover 2 where I'm outside, and I see that they're going to throw the ball to him down the field. So I'm running towards him. He's got his back to me, and I'm basically going to make a tackle by hitting him in the back to make the tackle. And then at the last minute, the ball's thrown behind him. So he spins toward me. And, you know, like I said, once you're about a yard or two away, you've got your strike zone, and it changed on me.
Here's Brunell ducking under and taken down by Sam Shade on a safety blitz.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
And that's another little piece of money they took out your check too, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was – both of those cost me $10,000. Both of them cost me 10. And you know, the funny thing about that at that time, what I thought was just hilarious to me, was that they would let you appeal the fines. So they would say, okay, you can appeal it.
So you're just stretching it out, but they eventually get the money.
Yeah. So like, well, basically the problem I had with the appeal was there was one person back in New York with the league office that's looking at the film, and he's sending out the fines. Well, when I'm appealing, I'm talking to that one person. It's not like there's a jury. Wrong. Yeah. There's no jury of your peers. There's you know. So I'm like, this is a joke. Like, yeah. I mean, I'm getting it's an appeal, but the guy already made his mind up.
They made his mind up. He's not gonna go back and say, "Oh, you right."
Exactly. So, you know, I thought that was just kind of a funny deal right there.
So with Miles, what teams are you all playing? What division are you in?
We're Division II football. We play in the SIAC. That's the conference that we play in. And we've got 12 teams in that conference that play football. And we're an HBCU conference. We've got obviously ourselves. We've got teams like Morehouse College, Clark Atlanta. You've got Lane College. You've got Edward Waters, Fort Valley State, Albany State. There is
Savannah State. Is Savannah State in there?
Savannah State, Allen University, Benedict, Tuskegee, Central State. It's actually a really good conference. Like I said, we've got 12 teams, and actually this year, you know, had one team make the playoffs, the Division II playoffs. Thought we should have had two teams make the playoffs, but it's a very competitive conference. You've had guys from there have been guys that come out of this conference and go on and play in NFL. Guys like Shannon Sharp playing at Savannah State.
Tyrone Poole?
Say again?
Tyrone Poole? Did he play?
Was it Fort Valley or Albany State?
Yeah, Fort Valley State or Albany. One of I think it was
Tyrone Poole, Fort Valley. Jacoby Jones played at Lane College, which is in our conference. I don't know if you remember him. Big time kick returner, wide receiver. Oh yeah. And you know, I can go on with some of the guys that have played at some of these. Hugh Douglas played at Central State up in Ohio. I mean, just a lot of guys, man. I'd be naming them all night if I could.
Man, look, I'll tell you a story about Hugh. Okay. We were down in I want to say that was the year Orlando Parker came out, because we had him out. I'm not sure if it was, but you remember Orlando that played at Auburn, Detroit? Yeah, he was a speedster, wide receiver.
Oh yeah,
and I want to say we was at that game. It might not have been, but I remember when Central State bus pulled up and Hugh Douglas got off the bus. I didn't know who Hugh was. We were just standing outside.
Right.
Boy, he came off that bus talking smack. He said, "Boy, y'all ain't never seen nobody like this right here." He said, "This is my year I'm going up. Y'all better get your cameras ready, get close in on me." I mean, he came off the bus talking like Lawrence Taylor. He was just talking smack. I'm like, who is this guy? And when I saw him play, I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, he could go now. He could go.
Yeah.
He could go.
And I hadn't heard anything about Central State since Hugh. I remember they had a brother at FAM that went to Florida State. They got in trouble, a wide receiver that wound up going to Central State, but I don't remember anybody else. But you all are playing them?
Yeah, yes. They're in our conference, Central State. We actually went up there and played them this year. They've got a brother by the name of Kevin Porter that played at Auburn. You probably remember Kevin Porter.
Yeah, I remember him. Quarterback, number 3.
Safety.
Yeah, safety.
He's their head coach. He was a really good player. Played for Kansas City for a long time. So I mean, and that's the other thing. We've got some good coaches in this league. Like I said, it's very competitive. You know, we kind of had a tough year this year, but we're looking to bounce back, and you know, I feel like we're going to have a chance to be competitive.
Cool. Man, I'm glad somebody like you is at a HBCU and at Miles, and I know you're gonna focus. Your goal is to win, and so once you start winning, you can make everything else happen. And I know that, you know, you need that kind of person. I know you probably heard about today in the news, you know, what somebody was saying today in the news about. And I know that person probably just doesn't understand the HBCU because, you know, it needs a lot of help. You know what I'm saying? Not only do you, when you go there, you got to understand it's like family almost. It's like, you know, it's like, even don't you remember when you first came into the league, how the family came around you? It's the same thing into the HBCU. It's like everybody kind of needs help and support. And I know you know that. So,
go ahead. Yeah, I was very familiar with HBCU culture. My mother and most of her family went to Alabama State. My wife and a lot of her family members went to Alabama A&M. I've got an older sister and younger sister that are Miles grads. I've got a nephew that played ball and graduated from Miles like 2019. So, you know, I'm pretty versed in HBCU culture, and you know, obviously, I think some people, because I went to Alabama, you know, was basically a PWI. Some people might think that I'm not, but I actually grew up. I grew up 8 to 10 minutes from Miles, going to Winona High School. Which at the time was an all-black high school and still is. So right. You know, so I feel like I know the culture pretty well.
Well, man, look, I appreciate you giving me some time, man. I swear this ain't gonna be the last time, though. We're gonna get you another time in maybe 6 months to a year once the season over with, and get you back on here. But you're my first Mental Toughness podcast on YouTube, man. I swear, Sam, and I appreciate you again giving me this much time. We're going to share this video with everybody. We're going to put up your Twitter. I think we got your Twitter here.
That's
account.
That's it.
Is that, you see it? Okay.
That's it.
Yeah,
Coach _Sam _Shade. That's good stuff. I want to say I really appreciate you inviting me on, especially on your first show on the Mental Toughness podcast.
Right.
Man, I know you're gonna do well. Man, you've always, you know, been one of those positive brothers, hard worker. Man, just I'm excited for you. I'm excited for you, and looking forward to coming back on, and looking forward to watching, you know, some of the people that you're gonna have on your show, because I know it's gonna be all around, and you're gonna bring people from different walks of life.
And you gonna recommend some guys for me, I know. So
absolutely, absolutely. Right. I don't have a problem doing that.
Okay, all right. And when we get this together, make sure your mom see it and tell her I said hello. Tell everybody I said hello, man. I appreciate it again, Sam. And I know we took up a lot of your time, but man, I think a lot of people in my social media group and a lot of people on YouTube gonna want to see this, because you got a lot of fans out here, man, especially the diehard Bama fans. So this is is gonna be
I want those diehard Miles fans watching too, man.
Okay, no, that's right. They need to know.
I'm one of those guys. Hey, man, I got to be where my feet are.
I know that's right, and I'm gonna make sure. I'm gonna make sure I get this to the diehard Miles fans and get it out there on social media and spread it, so they know who they have coaching for them, and they know that they need to go and support too, man. So we can, you know, make them put some more bleachers at that stadium out there.
I'll tell you what, we actually talked about that last year. So I can't get off the show without talking about our president, Bobby Knight. You know, you talked about how I got to Miles. She was a big part of it. Her husband, actually, Gary Burley, is a former NFL player, played for the Bengals, one of the teams I played for. He's older than me, but, you know, great people. Our athletic director, Coach Fred Watson, he's the head basketball coach, but he's been in college coaching for over 20 years. And they give me great support. They give our players great support. And we know they're behind us, and we've got, plans and things in the works to increase our facilities and, make things as nice as possible for our student athletes.
Is Fred from Birmingham?
Fred's actually from South Carolina. He actually played basketball at Benedict and actually played overseas for a little while.
Okay, well, cool. All right, man. Appreciate it. And we're going to get you back on here again right after the season. We talk some more, all right?
All right, man.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You got challenges that you're going to run across.
Make sure that you like and subscribe and hit the all button and all that kind of stuff, because we're going to have a lot of good interviews on this podcast.